I love that coffee
Good morning, everyone. This is Biz Chicks TV. This is the place where you can find tips and tools to help you do business better. We're here to help you run a profitable business that's fun to run and to take the hassle out of your hustle. And today we are talking health and wellness. So I am so glad to have Robin Shimizu. Did I say that right? I'm getting better. Robin Shimizu in the house, and she's going to be talking to us about one of the topics that we all know about and is near and dear to our hearts. But I'm going to let her announce that. Meanwhile, I want to introduce my co-host, Ms. Francine Gregory, who's off camera right now doing all that techie stuff. But she is a real estate entrepreneur and our tech diva. And I'm Terralina from California Cover-Ups. We're the Biz Chicks. And our co-host today is Robin Shimizu, who does health and wellness. So welcome to the show. Get your favorite beverage. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but I'm having tea. I don't know about the rest of you. And let's hydrate and get some information about how to do business better. You can't do business better if you're not healthy. Okay, ladies, let's get to it. How you doing this morning, Robin?
I'm doing great.
Great. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about today?
Sure. So last week at a networking meeting, somebody just mentioned to the group that there was a podcast out there on sleep, and it just blew him away. So I said, send it to me. So I listened to it that night, and I fell asleep in the middle of the podcast. It's a 2-hour-long podcast. It's by this guy named Joe Rogan. And he's interviewing a guy.
Why We Sleep. Okay.
Why We Sleep. This is a brand new book. And this, he's a neuroscientist, and he's and a sleep expert. And this is his first book after 20 years of research. His name is Matthew Walker. He's got a PhD, and he's really, really well published. He just never wrote a book before. So he's being interviewed by this Joe Rogan, and I'm going to share it with you guys, the podcast. However, I need to warn people there's a lot of bad language because this Joe Rogan is a comet and used to be on Fear Factor and all this other kind of stuff. So he has a little bit of edge to his talk.
Okay.
So people, if you're easily offended by language, then don't listen to it. But it's absolutely mind-blowing.
All right.
2 hours. So so I have a bunch of notes from the podcast that I wrote out that I wanted to go over because I picked up this book yesterday, so I haven't read it. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty heavy in terms of the science. It's got no pictures in it or anything like that. But in the back, it does have 12 tips on how to get better sleep. So we can do that if we have time. But I just wanted to tell people that I thought I knew sleep was important. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't value my sleep at all. I actually pride myself in not sleeping that much and being able to function on less sleep.
Uh-huh.
And now I know that he's recommending at a minimum 7 hours of sleep. The best sleep is 7 to 9 hours, and even getting 6 hours will have detrimental health effects on your
I had no idea.
Make a huge difference. So we're going to go over some of that detail, what he went over with us. And he started the podcast out by talking about how he was coming in, so he had to stay in a hotel, and he was a little tired. This is the doctor, and he said that when you're traveling, this is just, I didn't know. When you're traveling, your brain is only half asleep because your brain knows that you're not in your own familiar, safe place. So you actually sleep very inefficiently when you're in another bed, when you're out of your element, and your brain is created to do it that way because it's what part of that fight or flight syndrome. Yeah. And so he was talking about how your brain is always on guard. It's always on. Even and so that's why sleep has been, it's so important to get really good quality sleep. It's not necessarily, it's how long you sleep also, but it's the quality of your sleep that's really super important as well. So this is just a little fact that he threw out there in the beginning of the podcast. He said, men, this is just a little statement he said, men who only get 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night have a level of testosterone that's equivalent to somebody 10 years their senior. So it ages you by 10 years if you don't get enough sleep.
Wow.
So muscle tone, variety, I don't know how to say that, virility, yeah. All of those things are totally affected if you don't get enough sleep. And this is 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. And many people function on 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night.
All the time.
Our society kind of encourages that kind of behavior,
It does, doesn't it? Especially with all of the, we used to have an extended family. So that people could take care of things and other people could rest. But now with these small nuclear families, you're responsible for everything 24 hours without relief. And so you pride yourself on the fact that, I only need 4 or 5 hours to sleep and I'm functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean we're not functioning at peak potential, or does it mean that we are actually not functioning, period?
It's scary. I was totally blown away by this research. So as entrepreneurs, I'm going to go into the portion, it was actually toward the end of the podcast, about work and how lack of sleep affects us as people, as work. So our kids, I'll start out with the kids. Our kids are sort of victims, basically, of our work schedule. So how we're getting our kids to school earlier now, they're having to go to school, 7 o'clock in the morning, get dropped off before you go to work, and they get picked up late or whatever. Kids are not getting enough sleep either. And he was saying that there's lots of studies out there where people are studying the effect of sleep on teenagers in particular. And in one study, they shifted school time from 7:30 in the morning to 8:55. So they gave the kids 1 more hour of sleep every day.
Mm-hmm.
And getting 1 hour sleep, there was a 70% reduction in car crashes by teenagers.
Wow.
In contrast, those anti-locking brakes, that affected car crashes only by 23%. But if we could change the amount of sleep that people get, and in this case, it was teenagers, there was a 70% reduction in it crashes by teenagers in that particular study.
Wow.
1 hour. And so it has a lot of social implications, right?
Mm-hmm.
School system actually is set up to support the parents working and stuff. The school system, I remember dropping my poor son off at 6:45 in the morning, getting him up, dressing him, and put him in bed in his school clothes, so I could just literally pick him up and take him to school.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you had to be at work at 8. You know what I'm saying? Right. Or 9 at the latest. And so you have traffic. So I hear you.
Mm-hmm. And as a parent, you're getting up earlier too, because you're having to do all of that. And academically, they had another study that said that with 1 more hour sleep, SAT scores, which were pretty high anyway, the SAT scores in another study were on average 1288, which is pretty high. But with 1 hour more sleep a night, those SAT scores rose to 1,500.
Wow. So
just the smallest change in how much sleep we get, 1 hour can make that much difference. And then he talked about how we do daylight savings time. And so they study that. They study, over 1 billion people that are affected by daylight savings time in 70 countries. And in terms of our health, let me find that one, because that one just kind of blew me away. 1 hour sleep can produce lack of sleep can produce cardiovascular disease.
Excuse me?
In the spring, when we lose an hour, they saw a subsequent increase in heart attacks by 25%.
You know what? Now, I can see the correlation. And you know what I'm thinking too, Robin? I'm thinking that we probably are so stressed that we can't get to sleep, or we're working too many hours. And as a result, I can see where that would lead to heart issues. So it's all sort of, what do you call it? Come full circle. It comes full circle.
It's all connected.
And sleep is an indicator as to whether or not you're overworked or stressed, and we know stress causes these other things. Wow. So monitoring our sleep habits can tell us a lot about where we're going with this, doesn't it?
And we don't make it a priority. So on the other hand, when in the fall, when we gain an hour, there's a 21% decrease in heart attacks. So it is both ways. Isn't that crazy?
That is amazing. And you know what? It might be also because people want to get home before dark. Because, you know what I mean? Because now they're more conscious of the fact that the sun is setting, which is an indicator of it's time to knock it off, people. Wow.
And so then in terms of work, now I'll get into the work stuff. He was saying that an underslept employee takes on fewer challenges overall. And they do this thing called social surfing. So what happens is they end up taking the simpler work assignments. They produce less work. They produce less creative solutions. They kind of slack off and they ride the coattails of other people. So if you have an employee that is not getting enough sleep, you know, he or she may appear to be working hard, but they're really working at a much compromised efficiency. And
go ahead. And compromised efficiency. Is that the word okay.
So, and it also is the same with business leaders. So the people that are in charge, you know, the leaders of the workforce, the more or less sleep a business leader has, and one night to the next, the more or less charismatic that business leader can be. And their employees don't even know what their sleep habits are, but just by their behavior, the employees can tell if that person is sleep deprived. You know, they're shorter with their answers. They're not patient. They're not listening. They're distracted, whatever. So it actually can affect the leader if you're not getting enough sleep too, and the employee's attitude toward you if you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, because if you're short with people, nobody wants to come in there and talk to you. You going in there, no, you going.
Yeah, and they can tell just by the way, and because your efficiency and your productivity is so compromised, you know, when you have lack of sleep. And the other part of it is when you're sleep deprived, you don't really admit it. You don't want to talk about it really because you don't really acknowledge that you sleep deprived.
I was going to say, you don't want anybody to know and you don't want to know.
That's right. And so, you know, you just kind of skate through the day and so they're saying as a workforce, we tend to have a less efficient workforce because Americans are so, he didn't say it in this exact way, but because we're all working so hard and we don't have enough sleep, we are not efficient in the time that we spend. So it's better to have somebody who works really well for 6 hours during the day than somebody who works 10 hours because they just can't get everything done because
they're not. The productivity goes down in correlation with the amount of sleep or up. Wow.
So as business leaders, we should not encourage people to put in those long hours because it doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do the.
So we should stay away from overtime.
We should be encouraging people to work efficiently and productively, and discourage people who tend to put in those hours.
Wow. And this all goes back to work-life balance too, which will help you avoid a heart attack. You know what I mean? This is profound. I just never connected the two with things like car wrecks or SAT scores, or you know what I mean? But it really does make sense, or even heart attacks. It really does make sense as you talk about it. Wow. No wonder you were into this podcast. I'd have been like, what?
I listened to it 4 times. And then I ran out and got the book. It's profoundly going to change my life, really, because I'm one of those who never gets enough sleep. I go to bed late. I wake up early. I function, I think, fine, but I know I'm not now. So it's really an eye-opener for me, and I really thanked this kid who brought it to my attention. And so now everybody in that networking group said, send me that podcast. I want to listen to it. And I said, it's 2 hours, but it's worth it.
Okay. Wow.
So,
oh, you know what? I'm not looking over there on Facebook to see if people are commenting. Hold on. Go ahead.
and
then you've been commenting. Pay no attention to the lady behind the curtain. I'm looking now. Go ahead, Robin.
Okay. And so the last thing I want to say about work and lack of sleep is that what happens is if you have lack of sleep, this frontal cortex part of your brain is compromised. So that's the rational, logical part of how we function. So lack of sleep affects this. And so what happens is your emotions that just normally controlled by this part of your brain is out of control. And then lack of control you're no longer in control. And I think that's why there's a lot of emotional, when you have lack of sleep, you could be emotionally, when you respond, it could be out of whack because those emotions would normally be in check. If you're sleep deprived, this part of your brain is not keeping that in check. So it's not a good combination for lack of sleep in the workplace.
You know what? This makes me think about the fact that a lot of tech companies have places for people to take a nap.
And speaking of naps, so he covered a whole thing about naps. So naps can provide benefit in terms of memory and alertness and emotional and mental health and things like that, but you can't rely on naps to make up for your lack of sleep. I mean, it will help you get through the day, but it's not something that you should do on a regular basis because your brain can't bank sleep. So in other words, if you sleep for 3 days in a row, 8 hours, then a day where you only sleep 4 hours, that 4-hour day does not borrow from those first 3 8-hour days ahead of it. So your brain doesn't have the ability to bank sleep because Mother Nature, the way he put it is Mother Nature was never faced with the challenge of coming up with a safety net for lack of sleep because human beings are the only species on this earth who purposefully don't Don't go to sleep. All animals on this earth, except for human beings, sleep because they're meant to sleep. But human beings will say, "Oh, it's midnight. It's time to check Facebook." Right?
Yes.
We make ourselves stay up. Where animals, unless they're starving, won't do that. They don't compromise the sleep that they need, where human beings do that. And so was saying that taking a nap will help, but it doesn't really make up for what you would normally get if you were getting your deep REM sleep like you're supposed to every night. And you're really only in REM sleep for 2 hours a night. So there's like 5 stages of sleep. There's 4 stages, which is light and then deep sleep, and then there's REM sleep. And REM sleep is where your brain really gets cooking and starts cleaning itself and starts, everything is heightened, and all the activity in your brain is heightened by 30% in REM sleep. So everything is like turned on, and what's turned off in REM sleep is your frontal cortex. So what REM sleep allows your brain to do is to kind of just go wild, like a free-for-all. And it's really good for it to do that. And that's what produces dreams. And dreams are important as well. So the other thing that he said that was really interesting to me was in REM sleep, your brain is actually 30% more active. You know, you think you're sleeping so your brain is resting. It's actually heightened. It's hyper. It's actually 30% faster. Everything's going faster inside. The visual, motor, memory, emotional centers are all just on red alert. And that's really good, because what happens when you're sleeping in REM is your brain is actually learning also. So, you know how they say you'd have to sleep on a problem?
Yes.
You have a problem, go sleep on it. Do you know in every single culture in the world, practically, there's the same kind of attitude towards sleep? If you have a problem, go sleep on it. In their own culture, that's what they do. And so they never say, if you have a problem, go wake up on it or stay up on it and just keep working on it. So that student who is who's doing, staying up late because they're, what do they call that?
Cramming.
Mm-hmm.
The student who says, oh, screw it, I'm going to go to bed and goes to sleep is going to do better on that exam than the student that crams, because the student who went to sleep was learning and learning and learning before they went to sleep. And in sleep, their brain is just rolling that around at rapid speed. So then when they wake up, they're actually that much smarter in the morning, even though they didn't stay up and study. Isn't that?
It is really interesting, because I know me at a certain time period, I'm not doing things that require my brain. I need to go to sleep. And I mean, like, go lay down and go to sleep. I do better. I think I was telling Terry the other day, I took a day off and I woke up, went to sleep, woke up, went to sleep. And I did that all day. And the next day I was so much more clear.
Mm.
Just having the one day, and because I do go to bed, and I go to bed, here lately it's been like 8 or 9. I try not to stay up late, but when I did go to bed, I went to bed like 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 or whatever, because I do get up kind of early. But I was so clear that next morning, after just doing nothing the entire day before. I didn't work on anything. I didn't pull my computer out and try and do something. I just I'm resting.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the difference.
Yep. Because one of the things they say is like, so you're working on say you're a pianist and you're trying to play the piano, and there's one part of a song that you just can't get.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get it. And so when you go to sleep, your brain is still working on that piano piece. And the next morning, you're going to be 30 to 40% better. And you probably will be able to play it, because in your sleep, your brain was already practicing it for you and completing it for you. It's smart. It does that for you. And so they say it's better to stop a practice session the day before than to fight through it. And you're going to, because you're still learning and your memory is still working, and all these recuperative benefits are happening while you're sleeping, and you're just going to solve your problem if you just go to sleep and get a good night's sleep.
Wow.
Do you have any suggestions for people who have trouble trying to get to sleep?
So yes, and he in the book he has 12 tips on how to get a good night's sleep. and I think we went over this a little bit at one of the other shows that we had, just kind of briefly. I don't want to go through all 12, but I want to give you his top 5.
Okay.
So he was saying that part of the issue is this with us as human beings is that we have this invasion of light on us now. And so when we were way back when we didn't have all this technology, your body had natural rhythm to it. So when the sun started going down and the temperature started getting cooler, you were naturally getting sleepy. You went to sleep. So like Francine went to bed at 8, 9 o'clock, that would be sort of normal, because midnight really means midnight. So if you figure 4 hours of sleep before midnight, 4 hours of sleep after midnight, because but at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the temperature starts to rise, and that's what got you up, not necessarily the light. Mm. So your body is very sensitive to temperature, the temperature, and your brain is really sensitive to it. So regularity, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, weekends, weekdays, whatever, try to just keep it the same. So a regular regularity of the way that you go to sleep and all of that is really important. Same time, same day, same time, wake up and go to sleep at the same time every day. And then start turning off the lights in the house hours before you're going to go to bed. Just start turning the house down everywhere, and get away from your screen at least an hour before you go to bed. So reading on an iPad or a Kindle is not good for us. It's better to have a hard copy book, because that light in our face while we're reading in bed is really bad for us.
Mm.
That is why you have gunners and that blue light that emits from from a tablet or from a phone or from your computer. They talk about mitigating that with some glasses or something while you're doing that, but then turning it off an hour before you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I realized when I watch too much television, my eyes are very tired right in here. It's just like, oh my gosh, I need to, and I put on a mask to shut off the.
You sleep with a mask?
Sometimes I do. And there are sometimes I won't need to because I'll just fall asleep. But there are other times I just put a mask on because the light coming in from television or what have you, or not necessarily light from outside, but that the television light or the other lights. And now we have LED lights, not regular incandescent lights. The fluorescent and then the LEDs were always a problem for me because of the blue that comes out of them. The fluorescents move, and the LEDs are blue. They're not, like the yellowish light. Yes, it's brighter or what have you, and they last longer, but they take a toll on the human body.
I don't know what those lights are, the new lights that they have on cars now, Francine, but they're really intense for me. I really have a hard time.
They're blue.
Is that what it is?
They're blue. They're LED and they're blue.
Oh my gosh, it's just really, I have to actually turn my head away.
Yeah, and so you could get some glasses that have the yellow tint to them. Your gunners might work for that purpose too.
Okay.
If you're driving at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what Robin is saying, and maybe we want to be at home or in our hotel by nighttime.
There you go.
If you're traveling, and a lot of people like to do late night stuff. I never did understand it, and I'd rather go home, but
different body clocks. I'm a morning person. So I need to get to bed.
That's good.
So if you're having a function, we were talking about this for business. So if you're having a mix or a soiree, started at 6, ended at 8, so people can go home and go to sleep.
That's right.
Do your part to get them to bed.
That's a really good point, Francine. The other thing is that your brain wants to be in a cool environment. It goes to sleep 2 to 3 degrees cooler than normal. So your brain has to be kind of cool in order to go to sleep. So that's why they say sleep in a cool room and make sure the temperature is cool. But so a cool body, you get deeper REM sleep. But yet conversely, what they're saying is that your feet and your hands need to be warm because it's pulling the heat away from your core, away from your brain and all of that. So taking a hot bath before you go to sleep makes a lot of sense. So the Japanese had it right because you pull all that heat out of your body and the core of you is nice and cool. So when you go to bed, your brain is already cooled down enough where it can fall asleep faster.
Oh, okay. And I learned from another doctor that I was listening to, and we're going to have a shout out to Lakeisha Appleton. And she says that she's a night owl and that with the fan on, I heard from this doctor that you open a window, even though just open a window to let fresh air in, even though it's cooler, even in the wintertime, let fresh air in. And I can understand that. And then cover up, but let some fresh air into the room while you're sleeping. Hey, Karen, Coach Karen is in with us too. So getting the proper amount of sleep, and then a lot of people are like, I need the room all closed up. You don't need to keep breathing that same carbon dioxide that you're putting out. You need some oxygen coming in, some fresh air to come in, and you'll sleep better. There's, a lot of people will fight that, and it's like, no, I need all the windows closed. Not stuffy, people, let fresh air in.
Yeah. The other thing he said was, and don't go to bed full, and don't go to bed hungry.
That's good.
And make sure that when you do have food in your system, that it's not high in sugar, it's not high in carbs, and it's not low in fiber, because you actually sleep less deeply when you have all of that stuff going on in your system. And then the last thing he said on that segment was, the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life. And then I went, what?
Wow. Go to bed, people. Go to bed. We want to see you tomorrow.
Because you're not making the best use of time by less sleep. Wakefulness is a low-level brain damage. So as we're awake, we're already damaging our brain. So being awake is already brain damage. Mm-hmm. And that sleep offers the time for the brain to repair itself.
Wow.
So we repair our brain every night. And what happens is that the brain doesn't have time to clean out all the toxins and things in your brain as you accumulate during the day. Did I already talk about Alzheimer's?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to go there now. So it actually, lack of sleep changes your DNA. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy? So it can negatively affect your DNA code. So this is really interesting. So when you have lack of sleep, your genes get kind of distorted. They either get really hyperactive or they get kind of like slow or whatever. They get distorted, or they turn off completely. These are your genes. So he said genes that were distorted by their activity caused 1 week of 6 hours of sleep. 1 hour. Okay, so let me say this again. 1 week of 6 hours of sleep caused your genes to get distorted, which means they're either hyper or they're slower, or they turn off. And what happens is when they turn off, those genes that turn off were associated with the immune system. So those genes and the genes that were ramped up, the ones that went faster, were associated with tumors, chronic inflammation, and cardiovascular disease. So it actually can cause cancer. He made that statement. Lack of sleep can cause cancer.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then see, we're not looking at the things that we can do to change something. You know what I mean? A lot of times we're running to go get surgeries, pills, treatments, and things, but there are things that we are doing that can stop or reverse reverse the ill effects. Go to bed.
This was huge for me because I sell wellness products, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of selling wellness products because I want to help people. But if I would just tell somebody at the same time, how much sleep are you getting? This is really super important. I mean, it's going to make a huge difference in the way I communicate to people, because I feel like everybody needs to know this information. It's like, yes. I was so excited to be on the show today to share it with you guys.
You know what's going to happen? What happens if we just keep the remedies for ailments simple?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are very simple. The body repairs itself. You just told us that. If we go to bed and give our brain a time to regenerate, clean out all of the cobwebs and clutter up there, just go to bed. Mm-hmm. You told us that. It's very simple. For some reason, human nature wants to have this long drawn out, it's got to be 15, 12 steps to this, or either I have to go through surgery or I have to take a pill or no, go to bed.
Get some rest, people.
Drink some water. Eat real food. Very simple things. And Robin, that's why we are so happy to have you here, just to remind us to do the simple things.
Okay, I'm going to blow you guys away now.
Okay, we are ready to be blown away.
Now, you remember Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan?
Yes.
And I don't remember this exactly, but apparently they used to really tout that they only got 4 or 5 hours of sleep, because they were able to function just fine on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And it was part of it was to kind of like a bragging thing, look how strong and, successful and everything that I am. But, both of them got Alzheimer's.
Did you know she used to go to sleep in the middle of sentences?
And your brain does that. Your brain, there's a whole other thing in this podcast that talks about how your brain, to protect itself, when you're sleep deprived, you're wide awake, and your brain it will put itself to sleep.
Lakeisha says it makes sense because when your body needs serious healing, sometimes the doctors, they will put you in an induced coma so you can heal.
Oh, that's true, huh? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the body is like, look, she's not giving us no rest. We're just checking out right here. That's why people come to a stop sign and are gone.
And the other thing is, they know if they send you home, you're going to start doing stuff. You're going to be doing laundry and calling, returning phone calls, and,
But you know what's super sad is your doctor and people that you look up to for advice and things like that, have they ever asked you how much sleep are you getting?
I don't think so. I can't recall anyone ever really asking me about my sleep patterns.
But I think they don't know.
That's exactly right, Fancy. What this guy said was, Dr. Walker, he said that doctors get 2 hours of training on sleep during their entire training.
Of them 12 years.
And 2 hours on nutrition, right? They don't get a lot of stuff on nutrition either.
2 hours out of 12 years of training.
They don't know any of this stuff, so they don't know to counsel us on our sleep habits.
Yeah, then you find out people have been working 4 jobs and sleeping 2 hours between each job.
And then you want to know why they are having psychotic episodes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's right. And it puts them in a situation of making mistakes on their patients.
Oh, you're talking about doctors now. Oh, like when they do internship and they're up for 36 hours?
Or surgeons or anybody. I mean, so he was suggesting that as patients, we should say,
go ahead.
I think I want to be scheduled first thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
Hey.
I want the first shift. I'm not.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense now.
So it's also related, sleep deprivation also is related to car crashes. It is the #1 cause of car crashes over alcohol. Alcohol and drugs combined do not equal.
So this is a bad combination. The legalization of marijuana and sleep deprivation. Oh my gosh.
It is bad because the people some people who want to indulge in the recreational use, they stay up all hours of the night. Those two combinations are not a good thing to do.
So what he was saying about, so your brain is sedated when you're on alcohol or drugs. I mean, it's kind of sedated, right? So when you're driving, your reaction is slow. That's how car crashes. But if you're sleep deprived, your reaction is nil. There's no reaction at all. So in other words, you don't even try to brake. You just go. Because you don't have you're asleep. So you don't even know to brake. And that's why those car crashes are so deadly.
Oh, like when a couple of celebrities were driving and they were on some kind of medication, but their eyes were open, but they were actually asleep. I think one of the, I don't want to name any names, but yeah, several of them have been on different shows talking about how they were wide awake and moving around, but when they were driving the automobile, they were actually asleep.
Okay, there is a commercial that talks about taking this has side effects to have been known, where cooking, walking, driving, or doing other things without you knowing and without remembering the next day has been reported. Excuse me?
Yes.
And why are we taking this?
I don't want anybody cooking who's not awake, okay?
Well, cooking, but they were driving. One of my clients said her sister drove to Walmart and did not remember she drove to the store. And I'm like, who does this? And who gives out these pills? And then they do this.
Well, I want to know why my car drove itself to Starbucks and I wasn't on anything.
Okay, that is a whole nother, that is a different show.
My routine was just...
That was a different show. But the ones where people are not sleeping, but they're taking a sleep aid.
Yeah,
and
some kind of medication,
a sleep aid or medication, and they don't remember driving. They don't remember walking. They don't remember it. But they're wide awake. So people could be talking to you and you're doing stuff and you don't even know.
They be conducting business. And here's the scary part. They tell me that 40% of the population is on some form of medication to that effect. For mental health, some kind of mental health issue. Either you tell your doctor you can't sleep, bam, you got a prescription. You tell your doctor you're worried about something, you shouldn't be worried. You should be trying to solve these things. Here's a pill.
So, Robin, I believe that one of the things we can help is to mitigate some of the things that are happening is if we decide to go to sleep. Go do the basic things that we can do. Do what's in our power to do it. Instead of reaching for the pill or reaching for something else, let's just go to sleep. 8 o'clock, I'm shutting it down. And there's really no excuse. Well, I don't want to miss my show. You can catch your show tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock because we now have Hulu, Netflix, and something else. So you don't have to be up to see the late night shows. If that's something you want.
It's all about awareness, right?
Yes.
And changing small habits.
Oh, I like that. Changing small habits. # changing small habits. I need to write that down.
because getting ready to go to sleep should actually be a joyful time. Think about it as, yay, I get to go to sleep now, not shucks, I don't have enough, I have got this to do, right? We need to change our attitude towards sleep and give it its due in terms of respect. And I think that's what I never did. I never gave sleep any respect. And now I can tell you, I'm totally changed. This was so mind-boggling to me because I am a person that's sleep deprived. I have to admit it. One of the things they're saying too is if you get less than 7 hours of sleep, your body functions are compromised, of course, right? If you get less, but you're also prone to injury because you're not functioning as well as you should be. So in other words, when you're walking, your big motor skills like that, you could trip, you could fall, you lose your balance. You are more prone to injury, and they studied athletes on sleep. And so, for instance, they studied this boxer, and he was training for a 10 round, thing. But that night before, because boxers don't get a lot of sleep the night before their fight, they actually run out of gas in round 7 or 6, 7, or 8. They can't get it to 10 because they didn't sleep 8 hours the night before. So we, just to keep our health in check, we don't want to get into accidents. We don't want to trip. We don't want to do those kinds of things that might hurt us. And so that's another thing, that sleep deprivation really affects our ability to just walk, and our motor skills are compromised.
So it's not really that you're getting older and people are like, oh, she's getting older now, or how we see seniors and stuff. We can eliminate some of that challenge just by going to bed.
Exactly. Now, Donna over here on Facebook is saying that it also results in weight gain.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even go there yet.
She's like, I don't even want to stir all of that up.
Okay, I have a whole thing. That's right, Donna. You're absolutely right.
I need you to call me too.
Okay, so on nutrition. So there were 2 hormones that he talked about, lectin and ghrelin. And lectin, it tells your brain that you're satisfied and you're full and all of that good stuff. And that gets suppressed by lack of sleep. And ghrelin, which tells your brain that you want to eat more, you're not satisfied with the food, that gets ramped up with lack of sleep. So those 2 hormones are kind of out of whack. So if you get 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night, you will eat 200 to 300 calories each day more than you normally would eat. That's 70,000 calories a year, which equates to 10 to 15 pounds a year of weight gain.
Oh, so that's what's going on.
I am encouraged to go to bed early now. Okay. I am encouraged to go to bed and get my needful sleep. So Lakeisha was talking about 8 p.m. That's early for her. Hers is like 10 o'clock, but she's up at 5. So 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 7 hours. You're still not bad, Lakeisha. Just don't push it past, going to bed at midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Not good. But 7 to 8 hours, I think, Robin, is that a better?
7 to 9. That was his recommendation. No less than 7.
No less than 7. I'm going to have to make sure that there's a friend of mine that really needs to hear this.
So he was saying if we did a graph and we tracked obesity, because we do as a society, we track obesity rates, we would also see a decline in sleep. As obesity rises, there was a decline in sleep. If you were to put that on the same graph.
Wow. I wonder
there was a direct correlation.
If that is connected to sleep apnea too, because of the weight and the different things that are associated with it.
Well, I think it shows how serious sleep apnea is. And if you have it, or if you suspect you have it, to get it treated. Because they do have treatment for sleep apnea. Because sleep apnea actually is bad for your brain because you get this kind of the sleep is just so interrupted
Mm-hmm.
that you get brain damage from sleep apnea.
Because
So
it's like being underwater without oxygen.
Oh.
It's like being without oxygen because you're not breathing and you're just kind of like you missed a couple of breaths up in there, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing about nutrition is that when we're sleep deprived, we select the wrong kinds of foods. We select high in carbs, high in sugar. We want something that's going to be what we think is going to be a quick fix. That's what looks good to us. It doesn't look good to go get a salad. You just grab a cookie or you grab a piece of chocolate or whatever it is. But not only are we eating, we're eating more, we're eating really bad calories on top of that. So it's true, we do gain weight when we have, and so there's a physiological reason why we gain weight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Crazy.
All because we don't get enough sleep.
And he said, if you're like sleep deprived and you're up, like say you're up for 20 hours and you are as cognitively impaired as being legally drunk.
And that's true. I can tell, like, if one of those, thank you, Don, I'll talk to you later. One of those times when I, like you think that you're going to stay up all night and learn something or figure something out and you just up, or maybe you want to binge watch something on television. So you're binge watching it. I can tell when I don't have enough sleep. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it behind my eyes. Donna has a question, thoughts on napping, and I think we covered it just a little bit before. Napping will not replace the lost sleep. Is that right, Robin?
It helps, but it's not
a substitute.
It's not a good substitute.
And one of the things about napping is if you're having trouble sleeping at night, you don't want to be taking a bunch of naps during the day, even power naps, because it's going to interrupt the ability to have a consistent pattern at night.
So I think, Robin, correct me, send me on the right trail. In order to change this habit or change the not sleeping, we're going to have to stop and redo our day on purpose. Just stop and go like, okay, I commit to going to bed by this particular time, whatever that is for you to get up at the other time, and commit to doing it and do you can put the list of the 12 things in the chat or the link.
I will.
And do those things to go to bed.
To change our routine.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have to change the routine. And what did you say? Hashtag changing small habits. Change that small habit of going to bed. Add to that hydrating. And let's see how your health is 3 or 4 months from now. And let's talk about that. Let's see where we are. Are we losing weight? Are we feeling more confident? Are we sleeping better? Are we refreshed just because we changed a small habit by going to bed? Coach Karen said, stop burning candles at both ends.
Yeah.
And somebody told us that was a good thing to do.
And somebody said that there needs to be a hassle in the hustle, and it does not have to be.
No, it does not.
We need to put some snuggle in the struggle, people.
Go to sleep.
So I want to leave us with something really positive, though, because this is kind of a downer conversation.
Let's
just
do that.
Remember that in sleep is where we that's where we release our creativity. So look at it as a bonus that we get to go to sleep and release our brain so our brain can be free and explore and do all the things that it's meant to do when we sleep. Because Mother Nature, he said, Mother Nature doesn't do anything by accident. And she said human beings need 7 to 9 hours of sleep for their own good, for their own health, that for all of the things that 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 sleep does for you. And he said, so just listen to what Mother Nature wants us to do and quit being that species that decides that you want to check Facebook at midnight, because midnight is the middle of the night. It's supposed to be 4 hours before and 4 hours after, basically.
You're supposed to be asleep.
It's Mother's Day. Do what Mommy said. Mommy Nature said, go to bed, people.
I actually like your idea, Francine, of coming back and revisiting this in about 4 or 5 months. Because I commit to going to bed. I really do. I've decided that's it. I'm do everything I can to keep myself healthy except sleep. That's the only thing that I don't really watch.
So I'm going to put a challenge out to all the biz chicks and say, okay, get your rest, get your sleep, and then let's talk about it over in the group. How are we doing now? Donna was saying that she had a challenge with sleep. Karen said, well, once a law is established, you have to obey it, as if you don't, you will have to pay the penalty. So the law was established for us to go to sleep. We were never meant to stay up 24 hours. We are supposed to sleep at least 8, 7 to 9. Okay, go to bed and go to sleep. Our bodies are meant for us we are wired for us to go to sleep. I remember watching Star Trek. And when the Borg, they had to stop and, regenerate. Time out. They had to stop and go. They were machines and had to
Yeah.
And now, but we want to go and just go on and on. We're not the Energizer Bunny people. But the bonus that Robin talked about, you get more creativity for your business. You are more productive. You are a better person to live with. You will lose weight. There are so many pluses to going to sleep.
You're going to live longer.
Live longer,
isn't it?
I think what we need to do is celebrate the outcomes. Because we're
celebrate the outcomes of going to sleep.
But if you're telling me I can add days to my life, I can
lose some weight,
pleasant, have better relationships because I'm more pleasant. All of this is important.
Yes. So thank you all for tuning in. This was outstanding, Robin. And we're going to talk about your podcast. Follow Robin at I Am Robin Shimizu over on Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram. She's working her page and stuff. So follow her, follow Coach Karen, follow Donna, follow Lakeisha, follow one another. Everybody watching this on the replay, thank you for tuning in. People who are watching live, thank you so much, because you could have been somewhere else. We appreciate you spending your lunch or your break with us. And we will be back tomorrow. We're talking tech. So many things to talk to in tech.
Okay, guys, don't forget to go to the front of your own line. See you later, Robin. Bye-bye, friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.